Firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com. Use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and get 15% off your purchase.
Welcome back, Spoony listeners. It is Friday. Yes, we have made it through 4 days. 4 courses each day. Your stomach should be full. Maybe your brains have a little bit of room for some food knowledge. We got some fun stuff to talk about today. Today is actually National Pretzel Day. I don't know who comes up with this stuff, but who cares? It's great. As a matter of fact, there's some deals out there I just posted on the Spoony Radio Facebook page. So I was looking at Newsweek this morning. No, I wasn't. I searched the internet for National Pretzel Day. And here's where to get your freebies. Because what's better than free food? Nothing. Just saying. But before I give you that, you can't get free food without knowing what the heck a pretzel is, right? What is a pretzel? It's basically a twisted breadstick, right? Or wait, is a breadstick just a stale pretzel? I'm not sure. Either way, the description in the dictionary of a pretzel is a crisp biscuit baked in the form of a knot or stick and flavored with salt. Okay, that's fair enough. That's pretty simple. However, I like the little bite-sized pieces that are filled with peanut butter or the mustard ones, the honey mustard glazed ones. They're fantastic. If you've never tried them, they're a fairly low-calorie snack, a little high in sodium. But if you want a little break from a traditional potato chip, Doritos, whatever your snack of the day is, a salty, savory snack, pretzels are the way to go. And I'll tell you, having lived in Germany for several years, there's nothing like hot, fresh pretzels with some sort of beer cheese. Oh, man, it's so delicious. But where did the pretzel come from? There are hundreds of rumors. Some say it came from the Vatican, but the first time it was ever written about that we believe it was written about, came from a New York Times article in 1988. And it said in 1610 AD, 610. Okay, that's 1300, that's 1400 years ago, 1409 years ago. It was invented by a monk in southern France. He apparently twisted the leftover bread dough into crossed arms, praying arms, with 3 holes representing the Trinity. He gave this to his children who learned their prayers as a reward. I'm not sure if I buy it, but there's some other disagreement that says it came from pretiola, which is Latin for pretzel, and they think that comes from the old German word breziella, or brezzatella. I don't know. All I can tell you is that pretzels are damn tasty. I don't care if they're the savory or sweet ones you buy in the mall. Some have cinnamon sugar. Some have how about a maple bacon glaze? I know. I always say less bacon. Don't adulterate the bacon. Don't demean the bacon. But in this case, pretzels are pretty darn tasty. So you could bake. What if you bake the bacon inside the pretzel? That'd be good. Maybe. I don't know. But I think maple bacon, pretzel, that all goes together. It's got to be as good as cinnamon sugar. But here's your reward for today. Where can you get free pretzels? Well, Wetzel's Pretzels, which there are many at the malls and other places. I don't know if there are any standalone brick and mortar stores, but I know there are malls. You don't have to buy anything to get a free pretzel today. Yeah, they're giving away free pretzels on April 26th. Is that today? I believe today is the 26th, without the need to buy anything. But it's only happening at participating stores, so check your local store. Ben's Soft Pretzels. I don't know where they are, but if you look them up online, I'm sure they'll tell you. You can get a free jumbo soft pretzel if you donate a minimum of $1 to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. All donations will go toward building new Intrepid Spirit Centers for military personnel who suffer from traumatic brain injuries or psychological health conditions. Sounds like most chefs. Traumatic brain injuries or psychological health conditions. I have this theory that most chefs became chefs because our parents dropped us on our head when we were a child, and the resulting brain injury, turned us into who we are. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I know my mother dropped me once. I won't tell you why. And I know her best friend dropped me once too. I was little. I actually physically remember falling and hitting my head. head first on the ground. It may have been something I grabbed when she was holding. I'm not sure. But so the Philly Pretzel Factory also, you can get your free pretzel today at your local stores. Aunt Annie's, if you're working on pretzel day, then try to persuade your boss to get some pretzels. Aunt Annie's offering a $25 for $100 online catering orders. Wait. Aunt Annie's is offering $25 off of $100 online catering orders with a promo code NPD25. That's National Pretzel Day 25. And Beer House New York City. What goes better with beer than pretzels or beer cheese? What goes better with pretzels than beer or beer cheese? Beer House is giving away a free pretzel with every liter bought of its Hofbräu beer. Hofbräu. Or Hofbrau. I didn't know there was a beer house in New York City. I'm going to have to check that out. Anyway, you can find these on Twitter. You can go to National Pretzel. Just look up National Pretzel Day. You'll find it there. Or you can go to Newsweek, and they have all of the specials going on today. Today, we got a pretty good show. We're in the first course, the first segment of the day. So this is the appetizer appetizer today, right? Yeah. Coming up, I've been waiting for Chef Jeff Wetzel to call in. At the bottom of this hour, he's finally going to give us a fishing report. I cornered him. I got a hold of him. I berated him until he said he'd call in. As a matter of fact, right now, he's cooking fish at his home in Bentonville, Arkansas, on the lake. He has a big catering event tomorrow. He was making a mango chutney. So he acquiesced to my request, said, get off the phone. I'm going to burn my sauce. Goodbye. I'll call in at 1:30. So Jeff Wetzel will be calling in. Again, if you don't know who he is, he has a catering company called Le Bouvier, which is about as close to cowboy as you can say in French. Le Bouvier Chef Services. Amazing food. Unique twist. He's not old. He's a good old Texas boy from Houston, for the Houston area. He's got an amazing twist on it on traditional dishes. I've told you about his deviled eggs. He actually pickles the egg white after he takes the yolk out. Then he mixes the yolk, like you would, but makes it really smooth and creamy. And then as a finish to that, not necessarily the most unique part. I think the pickled egg whites are the unique part. But he puts a little piece of nice, crisp, fried up, thick-cut bacon and a deep-fried oyster. I mean, you really can't top that. Maybe a little creme fraiche on top, or I was going to say like a dollop of caviar or paddlefish roe. I don't think you need anything like that. That dish by itself is probably one of the best appetizer bites I've ever had. But Jeff Wetzel will be calling in. He's got a great live video series on Facebook. If you go to Pond to Plate, yes, that's Pond to Plate. It is kind of a play, I don't know if it's mocking or not, but, we all hear farm to table. His is Pond to Plate. You have fish in the pond, the ocean, the lake. Bring it to the plate. That's it. Pond to Plate. So you can go to Pond to Plate, or you can go to Jeff Wetzel on Facebook, or Le Bouvier Chef Services. Great guy. He's a bit cowboyish. Grew up in East Texas, Southeast Texas. And his wife is brilliant at marketing. Jesse, you've heard me say it before, but he has these T-shirts that say on the front, classically French, because his food is all based in classic French techniques. But on the back, as is Jeff, tragically redneck. Anyway, check them out. Order a T-shirt. It's worth wearing. It's fun. It's a conversation piece. All right. So there was a couple things in the news today, and one of our listeners, actually he called in yesterday, made me aware that New York City is doing one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever heard. What are they doing? How do I say this politically correctly? They're cutting us off from wieners. Yes. They are going to ban. So let me phrase this correctly. New York City vows to start phasing out hot dogs and all potted meats to save the planet as part of their own $14 billion Green New Deal. I don't know if the legislators of the great city of New York, which, look, that's my home state. I love New York City. It's a second home to me. Spent many years of my life there, if you count it up. Do they understand that that is the number one consumed food item in New York City? It's not pizza. It's hot dogs. And why is that? Because on every street corner, pretty much, or every couple of blocks, you have a vendor with a push cart that sells Hot dogs. Not only that, New York is, look, Coney Island's the birthplace of Nathan's famous hot dogs. That's where they have the big hot dog eating contest every year, right? Then you have Gray's Papaya right there near north of Columbus Circle. How do you think that you're going to take... You can take the New York... I don't know. How do you remove the hot dog from New York City? It's iconic. It's part of the culture. I mean, Chicago as well. You have Chicago dogs. You have all the Portillo's. You have all these wonderful places to buy hot dogs in this country. And in the most populated city in the United States, where it's the number one food item, you're going to... what are you going to pry it from people's cold, dead hands? I'm not angry about this. I just think it's kind of silly that you're going to try to legislate that that people have a healthier lifestyle or that they eat healthier. But it's not just that, right? So part of it was, yes, that they want people to eat less processed foods, especially processed meat. But the other thing is that they're trying to fully get rid of farting cows. Yes, they're trying to fully get rid of farting cows, and New York City aims to reduce the need for cows because their production of greenhouse gas methane. I don't know if they understand, but humans actually flatulate as well. So are they going to start phasing us out? I'm not trying to get political here, but it's kind of ridiculous. Do you know how much more greenhouse gas is created when you have to run a track? Do you know how many pounds of vegetables you have to eat to get the same nutritional value as 3 or 4 ounces of red meat or poultry? It's a lot. As a matter of fact, you can't get the same nutritional benefits because those proteins, those amino acids, a lot of them, most of them, almost all. As a matter of fact, there is no single plant protein that is complete. Not one. They're all missing one essential fatty acid, right? Amino acid, rather. Do you know when one volcano erupts, that equates to more than all of the cow flatulence ever generated over the entire history of man? When, what was it, was it Vesuvio a couple of years ago, or was it the one in Iceland? I don't remember. They had this big eruption, it's when they shut down the airports in Europe, right? They had all the ash in the air. They were worried that the planes would go down, and it is bad. That ash is very acidic, and it's hard to clean out. So that one eruption generated more greenhouse gas than all of the cattle that have ever lived in the history of man. That's a statistic I read in an article written by someone who covered this, covered the eruption. Okay, that sounded wrong, but I did a story on the eruption, right? So how are you going to legislate that we can no longer have cows? I just don't understand it. It's they have it's a device. I'm not going to say what the name of it, what they call it, but it's a device to actually capture the methane that's produced by cattle when they fart. I'm trying to figure out, that's got to be harder to put on the cone. It's more difficult to strap onto a cow than the cone you put on your dog's over their neck, over their collar, to prevent them from licking when they have surgery or a wound. I can't imagine. How does that work? That's got to be something that's inserted. You're going to get a lot of kickback against that, literally, pun intended. Anyway, look, I know that we all have concerns about the environment. I am a very big proponent of clean water, clean air. These are not necessarily renewable resources. One of the biggest heartbreaks in my life was knowing that that if you clear land in the rainforest, that you get a tax break for that, right? If you actually take the trees off the land, it costs you less as an owner of the land to maintain it every year from a pure cost standpoint. Not actually utilizing the land, just owning it. It's lower in tax. It's a lower tax bracket than if you actually have the trees, leave it fully intact. And I don't understand that. But trying to legislate that we can't eat beef or pork or chicken or whatever it happens to be, What do we do? Now, here's another thing. They're talking about, okay, so this is not citywide, right? They're talking about, this is, I think the New York, the school districts and things like that. They're saying New York, they've already banned straws from, I think, all restaurants in New York City. I know in California, there's a big, there's a petition going around. I think 300,000 people or 150,000 people. They have signed this petition to bring straws back, the plastic straw, which, whatever, a straw's a straw. I don't care if it's metal or plastic. But the hot dog ban is limited to just city facilities, and but that's all schools. How many public schools are there in New York City? How many public buildings? And that's a lot, and that's okay. I understand if they're going to legislate things that only occur within that their area of responsibility, which are their buildings, their structures, their business doings every day. That's great. That's fine. But when they start legislating into our lives, what we can, what we can't eat, they start dictating what we can and can't do, unless it's clearly detrimental. Obviously so, it makes it very difficult for me to stomach. I just talked about it yesterday. I know the story in Tennessee where the state senator was trying to ban the drinking of raw milk, even if you own the cow on your property. And I don't understand that. Because think about this. If they're trying to get rid of the need for cattle, so what do? We let the cattle die out, right? So, or do we keep just a small herd of backup, or just do heifers? Do they become an endangered species? What about Japanese the black cow, kuroishi, right? Kuroishi, or ushi, kuroushi, or what about akaushi, the red cattle? Do you ever wagyu or Japanese, beef, right? It's really good. It's really high in fat. It's actually very healthy for you. As a matter of fact, it's better than almost any other protein you can eat, because they metabolize grass, these Japanese cattle, in a way that puts a lot of fat into their muscle tissue, but that fat is very healthy for you, much like the number one food you can eat. Did you know the number one rated food source for your body when it comes to the health property and nutritional value of that food is pork belly? Yeah, I said pork belly. You know what pork belly is? Better known as bacon. Now, granted, bacon's cured in a number of ways. But yeah, so you're now trying to legislate out the consumption of a healthful product, which could be a healthful product, right? So what happened? Do we let them go extinct? And then when we ban beef, do we start banning pork? Do we then ban turkey? I mean, it's cruel, right? We have to kill the animal to take the life to eat the flesh. So then what do you ban after that? Do you ban fish? Can we no longer eat pork? So everything is now a plant-based diet. Okay. So where do you grow all this food? I would like someone to do a calculation. Look, Jackhole Nation, right? Doc's listeners, and now, thank you very much for being my listeners. There's statistics out there. How many acres of land it takes to feed one person a strictly vegan diet or vegetarian diet per year? I want to know if we have over 7 billion people on the planet. How many acres of land does that take? And do we actually have A, the land mass, B, the number of people it takes to produce that food, right? And then C, and what's the environmental impact of that? And then C, from that environment, specifically within that environmental impact study, how many tractors and additional pieces of farm equipment are used and necessary, or will be used and be necessary to produce this food? And not only that, now you have to transport. It's not just the production, right? It's not just the growing, the harvesting, the packaging. You have to transport too. So figure that out for me, and you tell me which produces more greenhouse gases. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not saying that veganism isn't good. I'm not saying it's unhealthy, although there are studies that show it's not. Most vegans I know have to take supplements. Not everyone, but most. But I want to know, what is the environmental impact if the entire planet went vegan at one time, or over 20 years? What is that? What does that mean? What does that count to? How many, I mean, you think it takes a lot of people to raise cattle? Oh no, cattle move themselves. I used to, as a child, okay, I was not like free, abused labor as a child. Don't get me wrong. In Arizona, I moved to Arizona when I was 12, 13, 12, I think. 11, I don't know, somewhere in that age. Third or fourth summer I was there, third, I think. I had an opportunity to work for $10 an hour, which $10 an hour, that was a lot of money. That was back, say I was 14. So 14, that was 1980 or 81. 81. I could work for $10 an hour, but I had to pick one of two things: watermelon or cantaloupe, because that's what they grew in the fields around Arizona, in Chandler, where I was at that time, which is it's the Valley of the Sun, just south of Phoenix and Scottsdale. You know how many people it takes to harvest watermelon or cantaloupe? You have a line of like 10 people on each side of a tractor, or a truck, actually. It's a truck that has these 4 or 6 giant wooden crates that you bend down, you pick up 1 or 2 of those, the cantaloupe at a time, and you look to your right, you pitch when that guy's looking, and he catches them, and he pitches the next guy. You go up a row, and you continue doing that all the way down. And these fields are massive, a mile sometimes by a half mile, or a mile by 2 miles. They're giant. And it went on for hours and hours, and 12, 14-hour days. I liked it because it was money. So now think about that. If everything we have to, how many people does it take? How many more vehicles does it take? Not just to harvest, but to take them from harvest to packaging, from packaging to transport, from the packaging to the ultimate destination, or to a clearinghouse or a distribution center, where then it's repackaged, or if not repackaged, then put into another truck and then redistributed to a restaurant or a home or a grocery store, wherever it goes. Think about that. Plastic straws, I get. We don't need petroleum-based plastic products. Yeah, I know. Forgive me, all you people out there saying it's the most inexpensive way to produce consumable goods in this country. And you're probably right. But do we need them? No, there are alternatives that are fairly cheap. But to say that we shouldn't eat beef, right? If you want to ban something, okay, find a way to ban the chemicals if you need to, right? If you could really prove to me that those chemicals are the cause of cancer in humans, which I'm not saying I disbelieve. Cancer rates are skyrocketing since the 80s, especially. So show me where the evidence lies, but don't ban the actual product. Ban the culprit, not the food source. You shouldn't be able to dictate to me what I can and cannot eat unless it's absolutely detrimental to my health. So MSG, they banned MSG. You can't put MSG in food anymore. Oh my gosh. Okay, they've now realized that MSG actually is not the cause of any sort of brain hemorrhage or increased blood pressure. None, zero, zilch. There's a very small percentage of the population which does have a reaction to it, much like the people who are truly gluten intolerant. Right? Celiac disease. The rest of us that think we have, and I've been there, I thought I had this gluten sensitivity. You don't have gluten sensitivity. That does not exist. It has to do with the other chemicals or other byproducts that have contaminated the wheat that you're eating. There's no gluten sensitivity doesn't exist, only celiacs. You know who said that? The man who discovered celiac disease. So again, I get it. I know everybody has their way to save the world. All right. Mine is that be conscious of what you consume. Don't be wasteful, because we waste so much food in this country. Just not throwing away the 30 to 40 to 50% of the food that we purchase, right, for consumption. That would change the world. It really would. Matter of fact, I'd like to get, there's a great food bank up in Denver, really quickly. It's called Food Maven. Patrick is the gentleman who developed this. But they take this food that's going to spoil from grocery stores and food distributors, and they consolidate it so that restaurants and other outlets can purchase this food on the spot, pick it up quickly before it spoils. And it's amazing. They save millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of food from rotting every year, and it gets consumed instead. Anyway, be conscientious of how much you buy and how much you consume. That's all you have to do. All right? All right, so we have a few seconds left for the break. Jeff Wetzel, the Cowboy Chef, will be calling it at the bottom of the hour here in a few minutes. We had a 2-minute break. At the end of the day, though, don't forget, during the fourth course, Cheryl Rich Heisler from Mixed Metaphors, we will be talking about what are we drinking today, Friday, and what are we drinking Saturday. So come right back. I'm Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro. Stay tuned.
Follow Chef Patrick Mosher on Twitter at Food Biz Pro.
Dr. Ken Brown here, host of Gut Check Project with my co-host Eric Rieger. Eric, we've been seeing Mojo guys over there and over here at Spoony talk about Atrantil for bloating. I've seen in my practice that Atrantil is a whole lot more than just a bloating product.
Yes, it does a whole lot more than just fix bloating because of the polyphenols that you find in Atrantil.
You're exactly right. The polyphenols are those molecules that we find in the Mediterranean diet. It makes vegetables and fruits very colorful. What are some of the things that these polyphenols do, Eric?
These polyphenols can actually stop inflammation. They can help you have more energy. They can help you with anti-aging. And polyphenols are great for athletes.
It sounds like it's going to help a whole lot more people than just bloating. Tell me how everybody should be taking Atrantil.
If you want to dose Atrantil, it's 2 capsules 3 times a day, basically with your meals. But if you aren't bloated and you just want that polyphenol intake every day, 2 to 3 capsules a day will work for you.
Go to lovemytummy.com/Spoony. Dr. Ken Brown here, host of Gut Check Project with my co-host Eric Rieger. I've seen in my practice that Atrantil is a whole lot more than just a bloating product.
Yes, it does a whole lot more than just fix bloating because of the polyphenols that you find in Atrantil.
What are some of the things that these polyphenols do, Eric?
These polyphenols can help you have more energy, and polyphenols are great for athletes.
It sounds like it's going to help a whole lot more people than just bloating. Go to lovemytummy.com/Spoony.
Take the pain out of ordering your diabetic testing supplies with Diathrive. Diathrive ships the testing supplies you need directly to you when you need them. Best of all, with plans starting as low as $8 a month, Diathrive is probably going to cost you less than what you're paying today. Diathrive is so convinced that you'll love their service, they're offering your first month of supplies free. Simply type the code DOC, D-O-C, at checkout. Diathrive.com. That's D-I-A, thrive.com.
And welcome back, listeners. It's Chef Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro, right here on Spoony Radio. And let's see if our caller's in yet. Jeff Wetzel, is he there? Is he there? Not yet, but he'll be on in a minute. Yeah, we were talking this last during the first course of the day, the appetizer course. Legislating, enacting legislation that limits our food choices, right? It really doesn't work well. Incentivizing, on the other hand, works better. If we had some sort of a, if you had a health score, what if you had a health score that's based on, I don't know, maybe on diet, or you can, I don't know. In England, I know they did this study where they can either legislate or they can incentivize, and the incentive direction of going, offering incentives for better health checkups, so on and so forth, and proving that you had been eating a healthier diet, according to their health ministry. It was probably going to be 10 to 20 times more effective than legislating that you cannot eat something. Because what happens? They tell us we can't eat something. What happened during Prohibition? It made a lot of people very wealthy because we are consumers in this country, and we like to consume what we want. So anyway, Jeff Wetzel should be calling any minute. He's the cowboy chef, the redneck chef out of Bentonville, Arkansas. We were talking. He's going to do his fishing report today for his, which he does every couple of weeks. He was talking about these fish habitats, and I was like, "Fish habitat? What is that?" And there's a company they've been promoting up there. It's called Mossback Fish Habitats. Now, I'm not going to go too much into it, but I'm really curious. It kind of looks like this. You ever seen a Bruce Lee movie? It's got this kind of tree-like structure with all these arms sticking off of it. And you turn to the right and you hit it with your right arm, and then you turn to the left, you stop it with your left foot, and then it spins back and forth. It kind of looks like that. It's like a bunch of helicopter blades strung onto one long pole, right? Like 6 or 8 feet tall. And these blades are all different, and they're offset at a different angle. And that goes down into the water. And I think it provides a habitat for the fish. It looks like a tree. It provides shade. But I'm curious how this actually attracts the fish. So we'll see what he has to say and whether or not he has some sort of explanation But speaking of fishing, I spoke briefly about it yesterday. I was fortunate enough the night before last to be invited to the Jordan Winery, which, if you don't know what who the Jordan Winery is, look them up. They are probably one of the best known premier wineries in the country. They were one of the first to do these really high end wines in the United States. Fantastic product. They basically, for the first time in history, they started aging a few of their wines all in French oak. Now, one of the wonderful things about California is we have these amazing grapes that grow there. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I think, and it's just my opinion, that the grapes are better oftentimes than what you get in France, which is probably why the French are pretty pissed at us. We grow some great wine here, not just because we killed most of their old vines. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's because we have great wines. And they were one of the trendsetters in that area. And they only grow two types of grapes. They only make two wines, Chardonnay and Cabernet. Well, starting in 2015, the owner, John Jordan, of course, said, how can we make our wine better? What can we do? And they came up with one way to do that, and that was to age it in all oak barrels. And each oak barrel, they're expensive. It's about $600 on the low end, up to really, that's more like American oak. Really cheap, like re-scraped barrels. They scrape out. They actually take a wood plane and scrape the inside out, and then you can use it again, maybe a few more times. You can only do it so many times. But they're using now all French oak on certain vintages of certain grapes, and it's fantastic. So I got invited to an early release tasting, because this wine doesn't actually hit the market till, I believe, May. And what it was a 2015 Cabernet, and it was aged all in oak, and it was unbelievable. And one of the most interesting parts of the night was the food that was presented. So Chef Kent Rathbun, who was on the show, he was one of my very first victims or guests, if you want to call it that, when we only had one studio, and we used to have to flip the sign over in the other studio over there. One side said Mojo, one side said Spoony. And now Brad Staggs has built us this beautiful studio just for Spoony's usage. But Kent Rathbun came in, and he's probably one of the most under-recognized celebrity chefs that I've ever met. And Kent, don't get me wrong, Kent is amazing. He's very, Kent goes, he cooks at the Masters. As a matter of fact, he just flew out to California. I said, hey, can you call into the show, Dad? I'd hate to lose momentum behind this big push that we just had for Jordan Winery. And he said, no, man, I'm sorry. A couple hours later, he texted me back saying, I just arrived in San Francisco at the airport. I'm going up to Napa to do another private dinner. And I was like, oh, okay, it is what it is. And Jeff's on the line. Jeff, I'm going to pull you in, and I'll get, but Jeff, you there?
Yeah.
Hola, Brohim. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Hey, so you ever met Kent Rathbun from Jasper's?
No.
So they have Jasper's. Used to.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was actually at the mansion at Turtle Creek for a long time. He's got a very storied history. His mom. So I can tell you, I did not know this, but his mother was like 6'3". And she was I knew he grew up in Kansas City, but his mom was the first lady maitre d' at a French restaurant, probably in the history of the United States, way back when he was a kid. He's a little older than I am, maybe 2 years older than I am. And his mom would
so that's 2 years older than dirt?
Hey, yeah, butthead. It's Friday, so I'm going to drink a beer for you while you're sweating it out there making your chutney, Mr. Chef. No, but anyway, so I went to his house the other night. I was invited to this tasting by Jordan Winery, and they did this all French barrel aged, oak aged Chardonnay, Cab from 2015. It was fantastic. But he did some great food, and I was just stating, we have all these celebrity chefs now, and it's kind of food. Actually, it's different now. Food has become the celebrity, right? Chefs have now become, the celebrity chefs have become they have rock star status. Dude, like Bobby Flay can't walk down any street in the United States without getting mugged, or Guy Fieri, or Julia Childs before she passed away. Even Jacques Pepin, the the humble, quiet little master French chef who's had several shows on PBS and other channels, he couldn't walk down the street, right? Even Jeff,
one of my idols.
Oh man, I'll tell you. I knocked him down in the bathroom at up in Aspen at the first food and wine event I ever went to when I was opening up Matsuhisa Nobu's restaurant. So I was at the Little Nell or the Starwood property up there. Anyway, I just come out of one of the seminars and I walked into the restaurant. I was walking out of the restaurant. No, in. He was coming out. He pulled the door open. I pushed it, and he's a little guy. He's short of stature. He's not a little man. And I hit the door. I pushed the door pretty hard. It knocked him backwards on his butt. And he's like, oh. And so I put my hand and helped him. He did not berate me or in any way embarrass me, fortunately, because it would have ended my career. Because I don't know if all the chefs went to the restaurant at the same time, but pretty much every known chef in Aspen that had any name, and I was just starting out, looked to see what I had done. I thought they were going to beat me to death because they thought I'd hurt Jacques Pepin. But anyway, he was very friendly. We had to speak after the event, and but do you believe? I mean, isn't that so? Even look, we're not well. Okay, we might be well known, but in our circles, we have large circles, but maybe low profile. But do you ever get that? Like people are, oh my God, you're a chef. You're like, yeah, dude, it's not as glamorous as it looks on television. I love what I do, but I don't think people mistake what we do for what they see on television and the perceived glamour, rock star lifestyle that brings. Because I'm telling you, there's nothing rock starish about working 16 days, 7 days a week, or 16 hours a day, 7 days a week in a restaurant. Except the fact we get to eat really well. Do you disagree?
Don't get me wrong. The Food Network is great, and the exposure is great, but it is giving this falsehood of I'm just going to be a TV chef and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And so you're getting this generation coming out of culinary school now that they believe they're too good to scrub a stove or, mop the floor or do some dishes. And I know you're old school like me. Like that's just not how it was coming up in the kitchen. And
no,
it's just not a realistic portrayal of the kitchen business.
So, it's really interesting. You know Chef Stefan, right? He was the chef at Max's Wine Dive and the other restaurants affiliated with that, or the wine bars in Houston, San Antonio, here in Dallas, and I think he won Top Chef, right? 4 or 5 years back. Anyway, he was in studio with Trey on Trey's Chowdown. He goes, he never went to culinary school, right? His dad was in the industry and he'd worked a little bit as a child growing up, but then he went in and he's fairly mostly self-taught knife skills and such, although his father helped him a lot, just exposure wise. But he goes, here's one thing I need to tell everyone going to culinary school. When you get out of school, you think you know everything. Let me tell you something. You don't. And so he talks about his first job was when they first opened. And we've had this experience as well, man. I by the time you and I opened that facility there in Bentonville, where it was probably the single worst day in a restaurant that I'd ever had. Some of it was my fault, a lot of it. Some of it was just piss poor planning from all of us, ownership to me. I'm excluding you from this. Because we didn't know what product we were going to have till 2 hours before we opened. Not even that long, an hour before we opened. But anyway, that was the hardest day of my life in a restaurant. And
forget the product. We had no staff. It was me and you. We were the staff.
We had you and I and 150 people wanting lunch in 7 minutes. No big deal. But anyway, look, we got through it. The place is still there, and they've actually, Barry's doing very well, but. People don't understand how. Well, maybe they do. Because we do a good job of sharing that with people. This is something where, and you probably feel the same way. I have never woken up and said, "God, I hate what I do." I've never woken up and said that. Not one time. I've never said, "God, I wish I'd chosen another career path." Now, sometimes when my check bounced because the restaurant was closing that I didn't know about, I'd go back the next day, talk to ownership, and the doors were locked and chained. That's one thing, maybe. But I've never really truly said I hate what I do. I hate the career path I've chosen. I have woken up and saying, God, I'm hungover. I wish I could sleep another hour. I don't want to deal with this person. But
yeah, but
I never.
You know, you said.
Oh, there you go.
My first chef that I went and interviewed with when I came out of culinary school, and this is umpteen million years ago, he looked me in my face and told me, I don't care about your culinary school.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that was his exact words. I don't care about your culinary school. You can go peel potatoes.
for about 56 over minimum.
And I said, yes, chef.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You know, that it doesn't matter what you think in the kitchen. Your answer is yes, chef.
You know, and
that's your answer.
So, and yes, chef, that's not like, that's not bowing your head and saying, yes, oh God of the kitchen. It's not. It's saying, look, you've earned the title of chef. You've earned the responsibility of running this kitchen. You've earned it. You've not been given it. You've earned it. Right? A lot of people have a title chef or whatever. A
lot of people give them.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, can you step to the right? I'm losing you just a little bit, Jeff. I know you're in that beautiful place right there on the lake. As a matter of fact, I'm a little jealous. You're pissing me off. I'm not there. Oh, I'm upsetting myself. I'm not there to go fishing with you, even though you'd be too busy. I could at least fish from the dock. But yeah, I mean, you're right. So
yeah, well, I'll tell you, I'm looking at my dock right now, and there are some massive carp swimming back here, which a lot of people don't think they consider carp trash fish. I'm gonna
mute the mic right now and mutter some things under my breath while you talk. So tell me what you think about that. I mean, we can go back to the chef stuff later. The whole we know the story. Most people have heard it, but tell me, what do you do with carp then if it's not a junk fish?
Well, I mean, if you can clean it properly, it's good eating. But the best thing I've found with it is if you know, hey, everyone's in love with these Instapots and all this, which I'm sorry, that's nothing but a pressure cooker. Okay.
Well, it's a combination of a slow cooker, pressure cooker. That's it. Mm-hmm.
If you put carp in a pressure cooker and cook it, you don't have to deal with all the bones. You don't have to deal with all the craziness, and you'll never eat tuna fish again.
Ooh, good point.
It's way better.
So why
it just takes a little effort.
So why didn't you have to deal with the bones? Explain that.
Because when you put it in the pressure cooker, one, some of the little bones actually just dissolve, and two, the meat just comes right off of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you can harvest the meat, and bam, there's your tuna fish. Go on and put your pickles and your mayonnaise or mustard or whatever kind of tuna salad person you are. Yeah. Put it on that carp.
You know, and that makes sense. I mean, it's yeah. Why do we call it a junk? I mean, I know that carp is a cleaner, right? It's basically a sucker fish, right? They clean the rocks. They eat a lot of algae. But you know, most other fish does as well. They just happen to do it very, very efficiently. They're bottom feeders, but you know, so what? That's where most
and I'll
of
tell you
grain...
what. There's nothing better to catch with your kids than a big old carp.
Oh man,
because they are strong.
Yes, they are. And that is a stout fish right there. Pound for pound.
I mean, my kids caught a 35 pounder off my dock, and they thought they were reeling in Moby Dick.
Well, your youngest
every
one,
time he'd get.
Go ahead.
Every time he'd get close to the dock, he'd turn around and peel 50 yards of line off. And they'd have to work him back over there, and then he'd turn around and peel off another 50 yards. And it took him a couple of times reeling him in to get him to the dock.
I'm surprised you didn't pull your youngest one's barely over 55 pounds. I'm surprised you didn't pull her right off the rocks.
Yeah. Oh, and I got a picture of her and we did. I want to put this out there that I support CPR, okay, which is catch, picture, release. Okay, don't keep big fish. Okay, don't do it. Put them back in there to breed. It keeps the waters nice for everybody. So we got this carp up on the dock. My daughter laid next to it, and it was almost as big as she was. And then we released him back in the water.
Well, I mean, you recently caught like a 65, 62-pound catfish that you did the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I released that.
Yes, you did. Yeah, that.
I release. I mean, when it comes to catfish,
mm-hmm.
I release everything over 10 pounds.
Well, that's the strongest breeding stock, and that it's really important. People don't think about that. This prize fish, yeah, it's a prize fish for a reason. It was the biggest, strongest, baddest fish in the lake, and survived all that time. And keeping that breeding stock, again, like I said, keeping that breeding stock going, and propagating the population is important. It's really important. I was really shocked when I moved to Colorado. I did a lot of fishing before I moved to the mountains, but I didn't realize that a lot of rivers up there are completely catch and release. Like the Roaring Fork River that runs down through the mountains, through Aspen, down through Aspen Valley, all the way. I think it goes all the way to like Glenwood Springs. That entire river system's all catch and release, no matter what you catch, no matter what size, and no matter what time of year. Which the
Roaring River runs down here to Missouri.
Yes, it does.
Just north of me, and they've got a trout fishery up there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it is some crazy trout fishing. Yeah,
well, I can imagine why. So, I don't think I've ever told you. And again, you're breaking up just a little bit. I can understand you, but just in case, when I was a kid in upstate Vermont, we lived in upstate Vermont, New York, and right across from the Vermont border.
Hello.
Are you there?
Hello.
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah, I'm back again.
Okay. Well, you just break up really.
Hey, I apologize, everybody. I live in the woods, so
no,
reception is sketchy.
It only happens for a few seconds at a time, and you know what? I have that service we don't want to talk about that sucks. So it doesn't matter where you are.
But let's talk about something good, and that is my little fishing report right now, and everything is coming back to life right now. Okay, the flatheads are moving, which is great because I'm a big cat fisherman. As I said, the carp are already back here at my dock, back in the shallows, so they're up and moving. Here in Northwest Arkansas, the crappie are still on the banks and shallow right now in the spawn.
You said the crappie?
Guessing the crappie.
Yeah.
And we are not going to debate whether it's crappie or crapie or crapie.
No, I don't care.
Just like we're not going to debate crawfish or crayfish.
Crawdads, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Semantics.
But they're hitting strong here in Northwest Arkansas right now. I mean, I went out and put a bunch of slabs on the board today, in 2 hours this morning. So, which I'm doing for a catering event, for a wonderful company, that I'm getting to familiarize myself with. And their name is Mossback Fish Habitats. And what they do is they make a artificial fish habitat. So once you put it in there, it's good for your fishing lifetime, at least. And they've developed a cool, flexible system on their arms on it, as well as a textured system. So the textured system really creates and promotes the algae growth, which, a lot of guys use PVC, things like that. Well, PVC is very slick, and so it takes a long time for algae to build up on it, which algae brings in the plankton and the little things like that, which then brings the bait fish, which, the whole circle of life starts to go. But these folks have figured out a way to make a pretty snag-proof for a fisherman. So if you're bringing your crankbaits or your jigs through it or whatever, It's flexible enough to let your bait loose, but firm enough to stay in place.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so I'm real excited. I'm doing a catering event for them tomorrow. And they were super excited. I mean, go figure, somebody who does fish habitats was excited about me putting crappie on the menu. Crappie is one of their main target fish that they produce their product for. Crappie love structure. They're gonna sit on structure all year long.
So wait. So hold on.
If you can
define structure, so you're talking a permanent fixture within the water that provides either protection or is a habitat for their food source. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and what a lot of people don't think about is, yes, the crappie sit on the structure, but there's a bigger reason for the structure, and that is when the crappie spawn, the fry needs somewhere to go to hide and be safe so that the bass and the catfish and everything else in the water doesn't eat them. And that's how you keep a healthy population in the water.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, so then they don't want to, obviously, jokingly, they don't want to go to France because then they'd be French fry. Ha, ha, ha. But no, that makes sense. So I know. Geez, it's Bad Joke Friday right here. Food Porn Friday is gone. Now it's Bad Joke Friday. But no, that makes sense. Look, so I grew up, my grandfather sold a bunch of land to a campsite right behind my house in upstate New York. I mean, like 10,000 acres worth. And I went fishing every single day of the summer, rain or shine, it didn't matter, every day. And it no matter what, I mean, we caught the majority of the fish near some sort of structure. There were a lot of trees that have been cut down to make these lakes and ponds, and they were left in the water. The trunks were, or the stump was. And so we knew where they were because my grandfather cleared the land for them, and we knew where the best spots were. And almost inevitably, now bass sometimes depending on the heat, the time of year, what they were feeding off of, they might be out in open water, deep or shallow. But all those the flatfish, right? They were always around some sort of structure.
Absolutely,
year round. So.
And even, even logs, okay? I'm a big cat fisherman, and so I like logs because catfish will either find a hole in the log, or they'll get up underneath a log, or they'll sit right next to a log. But structure is key to a productive environment for fish. And I don't care if that's the ocean or lakes. The oceans have reefs. Well, lakes have, structure like down trees, rocks, boulders, all that stuff. It all works the same. Okay. And these folks are developing, like I said, the key to them is, and this is a guy who sets a lot of brush piles and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And the PVC, is so slick. So it takes a long time for the algae to build up to get it to produce. Now, yes, it'll last for a long time, but with mossback and what they're producing, it's the algae production is so much faster, as well as the sediment, which produces plant life. They've got a really great design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was looking at. So I was looking at the website. It's a very cool structure. It kind of looks like a. I was describing it as one of those the training devices Bruce Lee would use in a martial arts movie, right? So it's got this. It's like a tree trunk with all these branches coming off, but without the foliage. And you kick right, block left. Punch left, block right. But triple the number of branches coming off, right? I don't know what those things are called, but you could see how the portion that's in the water provides the structure, but the a portion above water, right, provides a shade factor as well. Although it's not as much a canopy as a tree would be, it's got to provide a lot more shade than just having something underwater. Because like you said, you set a lot of brush piles and structures for fish. You know what, Jeff? We're going to go to break. Can you stay over? I know you got to cook. I know you got to party. All right, I'd appreciate it. So we'll continue talking about it. But I also want you to tell us what's your favorite way to prepare crappie, and what'd you cook for Easter, brother? Did you make any colored eggs? Don't tell me now. We'll be right back in a few minutes. So, hey, folks, if you're just tuning in, this is Chef Patrick Mosher, Food Biz Pro. We have Jeff Wetzel from Pond to Plate, also known as the culinary master of Le Bouvier Chef Services, the Cowboy Chef. He's calling, sharing his wisdom, talking a little fishing, food, fun. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. And then at the bottom of the hour, don't forget, Cheryl Rich Heisler calling in from Mixed Metaphors. What are we drinking Friday? What are we drinking Saturday? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. President Trump is urging gun rights activists to vote Republican in the 2020 election. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
Speaking at the NRA's annual convention for the third year in a row, the president warned that his political opponents want to take away your guns. You better get out there and vote. He also announced the U.S. withdrawal from the UN Arms Trade Treaty.
We will never allow foreign bureaucrats to trample on your Second Amendment freedom.
He signed a letter taking the action in front of the NRA crowd before tossing the pen into the audience. Greg Clugston, Washington.
And it's a strong first quarter for the U.S. economy. Correspondent Mike Hempen with that story.
The latest numbers from the Commerce Department show the economy grew at a solid annual rate of 3.2% from January through March, compared with a 2.2% increase in the fourth quarter of last year. The first quarter outcome was better than expected, overcoming global weakness, rising trade tensions, and a partial government shutdown. However, the increase was mainly due to two factors that are not expected to last: a big jump stockpiling by businesses and a sharp contraction in the trade deficit. Mike Hempen, Washington.
Also at townhall.com, severe weather is shifting from the Gulf Coast to the southeast and mid-Atlantic. National Weather Service meteorologist Mike Chenard says severe winds are the biggest concern.
Yeah, the damaging winds got the higher threat. There's a small chance of some hail and even a couple isolated tornadoes, but the most common thing will probably be some damaging wind gusts.
Areas from eastern North Carolina into eastern Virginia, up into Maryland and parts of Pennsylvania can expect to see some severe storms today. Stocks are mixed. The Dow is up 4. The NASDAQ is down 8. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Do you use the expensive blue or yellow pills to charge your sex life? Are you thinking about it? What if we can promise you the same results for less than $3 a pill? If you're paying $20 a pill for the other pills, you're getting taken to the cleaners. Our pills deliver the exact same results for less than $3. You'll save more than $16 a pill for the same results. And right now, radio callers will get 44 blue or yellow pills for $120 with free discreet shipping. You can save more than $700 off pharmacy prices. Charge your sex life now and save a ton of money. Call now and get your 44 pills and save over $700 and qualify for free shipping. Stop overpaying and call right now.
800-218-6473. 800-218-6473. 800-218-6473. That's 800-218-6473.
It looks like you're losing.
I am.
Are you losing weight?
I am losing. I've lost about 10 pounds.
How are you doing it?
Funny name, but I've done it with Riduzone. RADUzone.com, and the stuff works. It's, you get into all that, the molecule this and the found in that. All I can tell you is it makes you feel full, and it keeps your mind off of wanting to overeat.
And also boosts your metabolism, so you're burning more.
Yeah,
Try it today. It's going to work for you like it's worked for Brad and countless other people. Riduzone.com. RIDUzone.com.
And welcome back, Spoony listeners. We are now on to, third course of the day already. Third course, we are on to the entree, the center of the plate item, the meat of the meal. Chef Jeff Wetzel, since that's what we're talking about, we've been talking about crappie all of the last 15 minutes or so. So what is your favorite way to prepare them? Because I've never asked you that before. I don't think even once.
Oh, man. I mean, that's such a difficult question to answer because crappie is delicious every way you catch it. If I had to pick a favorite, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of blackened, and it doesn't matter what the fish is. I really like blackened. That's how I like it. Everybody fries everything. I don't think you need to fry it. Like it, you blacken it.
Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. So by blackening, are you talking about? So, do you take the fillet off and blacken it? Do you? How do you prepare it? If you have one fish, how do you prepare that fish? Take us through the steps. Obviously,
well, if I only catch one fish, it's been a horrible fishing day.
No, dude, there's no such thing as a horrible day of fishing. I'd rather sit and cast and catch nothing than almost. Okay, there are 3 or 4 other things, maybe 5. I'd like to do better.
Well, us fishermen don't believe the same thing.
Here's the thing.
I want to put a pile of them on there, and I mean, I caught 12 crappie this morning.
I don't get out much, dude. So anytime I get out of the studio and on the water, I don't care if I'm just casting and reeling. I don't even care if I'm rebaiting the hook every cast. I'm okay with that until I do it. If I'm doing it more often, I get a little pissed off. But so say you have a 20 crappie. What are you doing? How do you are you gonna fillet it? Or are you gonna just you can't blacken the whole fish, can you?
No, I actually because crappie is such a small fish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I thought I lost you. Because crappie is such a small fish, I actually like to just gut it and cook it whole because I think you get a lot more meat out of it. Now, obviously, crappie is a fish you need to scale. Okay, so you got to scale it and gut it, cut you a couple slits in it, and fry it whole.
Oh, so it'd be like a striper, right? Whether it's a hybrid striped bass, whatever it happens to be, it's very traditional in Asia, especially. Almost every culture has a whole fried fish, but in Asia, they take it, they gut the fish, you follow the line of the gill at the front of the fish, and you make 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the size of the fish, cuts through the flesh all the way to the bone or through. And then I use a mixture of cornstarch and flour seasoned with whatever I wanted to put in it. And then I fry the whole fish as well. And I serve it with a chutney like you're making, or some sort of a sauteed sweet and sour vegetable mix that goes on the plate. But
absolutely.
That's the easiest way, first by far. But if you're going to blacken it, how do you do that?
Well, then I fillet it. And so I make a really hard cut at the head because there's a lot of head meat up there at the top of the head.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to run a pretty hard angle up there and then come on down right behind that pectoral fin.
This is turning more into this is getting to be a little more like food porn now. This is more like food porn Friday.
and then I just rip it from there down to the tail.
Mm-hmm.
And I flip it over and I skin it, and then I just trim off the rib meat that I took, or the rib bones that I took with me when I came from the head.
Yeah, that'll be down by the belly, basically.
Yeah, and then I make my blackening seasoning, which I guess I'll share with you. It's equal parts onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, thyme, oregano, and then I do a third part cayenne pepper.
Yeah. So I throw a little paprika in there. It's basically
obviously the spicier you want it, add more cayenne.
Yeah, that's pretty close. And I use Paul Perdome's original recipe. That's it's available out there anywhere you want to go, but it's pretty close to that. I think mine has a little black pepper in it. I think that's pretty much the only difference. But yeah, I'm telling, blackening seasoning is by far my favorite spice blend. By far, above and beyond anything else, tenfold.
Yeah. Now you know what's funny, Patrick, is yes, I call that blackened fish.
Mm-hmm.
But you know as well as I do that blackening is actually a process. It's not a spice blend.
Yeah. So, the key, Paul Perdome was the first one to do the blackened red fish, right? And the most people don't know this, but you don't put any oil in the pan when you blacken fish. You use cast iron. The fish is dipped in butter or brushed with butter, and then either dusted with, or I just crust it. I actually pat it down into the blackening seasoning because I like it encrusted with that crust. It should form a nice crisp texture on the outside.
Yep.
And then you put it in
and clarified butter is
way better.
To enhance what you're saying, clarified butter is what you do it in.
Well, would you clarify for me what clarified butter is, sir? Or you know what? You can buy ghee in its stead. Most grocery stores have ghee now, but walk us through clarified butter, because I know I've made probably 500,000 pounds of clarified butter in my career. But for those that don't know, what's the difference between melted butter, drawn butter, and clarified?
Clarified butter is slowly melting the butter and allowing the milk fats to separate from the ghee and removing them from the butter, because those are what burn.
Yeah, so the milk solids, that white stuff, the foamy stuff
milk
that comes
fats
on top.
are what burn.
Yeah, the milk solids, right? That the stuff that basically milk solids, that stuff he's talking about, that's the foamy stuff that comes to the top. Or if you have drawn butter, which is basically melted butter, where you just skim the top, and it has still a little bit. If it actually separates when you put it in or leave it set, it's basically milk liquid on the bottom, and you have the ghee, the clarified butter, that butter fat on the top, that milk fat, and that's what you'd use that for dipping stuff from a clam bake, because drawn butter is way less expensive. Well, you got whole butter melted is one thing, because you get 100% usage. Then you have drawn butter, right, which is the basically partially clarified. But clarified butter, when you think about it, you're taking about 30 to 50% of the product out of that. So if you pay $4 a pound for butter, now it's $8 a pound. But I'm telling you, there's nothing that compares to clarified butter or ghee. It's my favorite cooking fat. It really is, by far.
Absolutely. About the only cooking fat that I like better than that is duck fat.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, that's about or bacon fat. I'm sorry, I'm a Southerner. Bacon fat is a really good thing to cook in also.
Yeah,
and if you want to blacken your crappie in bacon fat, more freaking power to you.
So
I keep a coffee can in my fridge of bacon fat at all times.
When I make cornbread, I always heat the cornbread, whatever I'm going to cook it in, the cast iron, whether it's a skillet or a cornbread mold. I put it in the oven to heat it up a little bit. While the oven's heating, I'll pull it out, and then I brush it with I use bacon fat. and it gives that nice,
Oh, yeah.
crisp, rich flavor on the outside. Dude, can I tell you how much I miss having a full kitchen here? I got a electric skillet, a micro.
Now, see, I take it one more porky niceness than you do.
How's that?
Is when my cornbread comes out of the oven in the cast iron, you brush a little melted bacon fat on top.
Oh, man. I can feel my arteries are craving something to harden them right now. That's okay, though.
And that makes good cornbread.
Yeah, you know.
And I said cornbread.
Cornbread.
Not cornbread. Cornbread.
You sound like Susie
That's
Q.
cornbread
Liquor.
right there.
Susie Q. Liquor. Yeah. We're not going to do that. Hey, yeah, you don't know who Susie Q. Liquor is. Look that up. She's a really funny character. Who's actually it's not actually a woman, nor is she black, but it's a very funny character who's very comical, played by a wonderful Canadian comedian of all things. But if you know, I have a new product I'm coming out with because everybody's, you know, bitching that bacon fat's going to kill you. You know, you can't have any sort of sulfates. You can't even have the non-cured, uncured bacon because you know what makes uncured bacon, reliable to keep in the fridge? Celery juice, which has sulfates, which turn to sulfites, or the other way. I don't care which way it goes. But basically, the uncured bacon's just as unhealthy as the cured bacon. So I don't care. I'm eating it anyway.
Well, but see, I've been reading reports that bacon fat is healthy for you.
Well, so you know that I read last year. I did a really big couple of days.
I'll tell you this: it's a hell of a lot better than eating margarine, which is one molecule away from plastic.
Yeah. So anytime you take a fat, yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Go natural, man. Natural fats. Natural butter, you know, that's good for you.
Well, it is. And so when you take a fat that does not congeal, does not harden at in colder temperatures, at room temperature, right, like an oil, vegetable oil, they bombard that with extra hydrogen, molecules, and that makes it solid. That's what margarine is. So why not just have something that congeals at room temperature? Right.
Now we're talking about trans-saturated fats and things like that, and a lot of people don't want to get down to the molecular level of it, but us chefs, we have to.
Well, don't get me wrong. We cook primarily with these ingredients for flavor and quality, but we are health conscious for the most part. We modify things. So I've thought about a new product I'm going to come out with. One of the gentlemen that's on here he hosts the show, Dr. Kenneth Brown. He's a gastroenterologist, better known as a GI doctor, but he calls himself a butt doctor, right? Comically, but he's very renowned. He's developed a few products. One being a CBD product. One is a healthy gut product called Atrantil. But I thought, what if you do CBD infused bacon fat, baby? You just sell that stuff in the store all day. You got something healthy to offset the bad. Who cares, right? I mean, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So, see, me being the chef that I am, I'm all about kind of no waste and no.
Absolutely.
Don't kill something unless you got to. And so if you were to produce something like that, how many pigs are going to die to produce that?
Well, it was a joke, actually. I was just trying to, I'm playing off those people who think I'm a bacon hating fool. But none, because I wouldn't do that. It's just people are so.
And then, I mean, do we really think the CBD cooking thing is really going to last? Like, I'm sorry. I don't do any CBD cooking. Because I just don't think it's going to last.
Well, so here's the thing.
One, because I think it's going to be legal federally very shortly. And so right now that's their way to get around the legalities of it. And so I just don't think it's going to last.
Okay. So there's a couple of different things here. THC, CBD, two different things, right? THC is only legal in certain states. So there's a couple components of the cannabis plant, right? You have THC, you have cannabidiols, which there are a bunch of. Specifically, CBD was what we're talking about. So
I mean, look, dude. At the end of the day, Bath Body and whatever, Bed Bath and Beyond, they're going to carry CBD oil for massages and things like that. But as far as the cooking thing goes, I just don't buy into it. I'm sorry. As a chef, I don't buy into it.
Well, so here's the deal. So hemp, this is a good discussion, right? Because we don't talk about this stuff very often unless we're talking about, hey, when's the last time you smoked, right? But that's a different thing. That's THC. So CBD, the body produces it. You have more receptors in your brain for CB1, right? The CB1 receptors, which are specifically to receive CBDs that your body produces or that you consume. There are more receptors in your brain than you have neurons that fire. That's crazy. And so the thing is, it used to be in our diet. We would feed. Back in the day, you could pay your taxes in hemp, but you would use the stalk, right? It was used for fiber. They made clothing and rope and all that stuff out of it. And the tops, they were often put in food, but more than likely it was fed to your livestock. So for over 4,000 years, we can go back 4,000 years. It's the oldest cultivated crop. And so the scraps were fed to the animals, and they're not sure what the residual effect, with the cumulative breakdown of that was in the meat, the flesh that you ate. But they're doing a study right now. But almost every person in this country has a cannabidiol or cannabinoid deficiency. Almost every single person. That one thing, CBD itself, cannabidiol, it's the stop sign. It's the one thing that balances the central nervous system and the immune system. It's the only thing. And I don't want to go too technical, but I don't think you need to have it in cooking. But as a supplement, it's great. In cooking, the problem is it breaks down at 360 degrees. So you can't use it really as an olive oil cooking and searing and things. You can put it in a brownie if you want to, but then you can only bake it at 340 because you get too high, it breaks down. It's a tricky thing. I don't really put it in food. I take a supplement every day. It's a dropper right here.
So you get my point. In the kitchen, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me because it breaks down. And so how often on a Friday night, Patrick, are you cooking under 340 degrees?
Never.
Okay.
Very rarely.
So it just doesn't work for me. I get people want to be trendy and they want to, go viral for, selling it or whatever. But for me, it just doesn't work. It's just not functional. On a lot of levels that, every chef out there should be thinking about. And let's be honest, how many chefs out there are cooking with it and don't even realize that it breaks down at a certain point in temperature?
Yeah, very, very few probably because they don't do the research. But again, mine was in jest because everybody's talking about bacon fat's bad. No, it's not bad. So my joke was that we infuse it with CBD oil, sell it in the market, and make a bunch of money. When really it's unrealistic because you're going to, again, rendering the fat from pork or whatever the animal-based fat product is.
Well, even if you rendered the fat and you added the CBD. If I were to buy that, let's talk about it. Duck fat comes in a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
If I were to take fat out of that bucket and put it in a skillet, that skillet's going to be way hotter than 340 degrees.
Oh, yeah. Well, and here's the thing. It was a joke about infusing. People are so against pork fat, right? I did a big study last year. Doc and I did a 2-day we covered the top 10 healthful ingredients you can eat. Yes, not healthy, healthful. They provide nutrition and sustenance to your body. You know what the number one most healthy food you can eat in the entire world? They looked at every food source that's known right now. The single most nutritional, bioavailable from a vitamin, mineral, protein, fully balanced, healthy fat, whatever. You know what the number one product was? The best.
Probably algae.
No. Pork belly.
Oh, yeah.
Pork belly, which is bacon, uncured, big-ass slabs of pork belly. So that was the number one food source that you can consume.
But, hey, you know the Bansleys up here that raise the Berkshire hogs?
That's Carol, right?
And the only thing that you ever keep your hands on is belly.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the chefs buy them up. To either make bacon or whatever. See, me, I like to just keep it uncured, and I like to actually just cook the belly myself.
Oh, so do I.
I do an adobo braised pork belly that will blow your mind. And I actually served it on a sandwich that I called the puerco sucio, which means dirty pig.
I love it, man.
And I did a puerco sucio, and I mean it was just down in nasty pork belly, cooked well.
I love it. And what was really fun, we did the the picnic up there in Bentonville. Remember that? I mean, I know you do. That was a really fun event where was it they or who was it? Bansley Farms, or was it someone else that donated the suckling pigs for that?
No, that was Richard's Country Meat Market that donated the suckling pigs.
And there was we each got a 40 and 60 pound pig, I think. But dude, the picnic was fun. That was awesome. I got to use the meat coffin from Joe Wilson up there to smoke that thing, and you had a great. What did you do that day, man? It was good. What did you have out there?
Well, I whole smoked my pig,
which is what I did.
And served it with some slaw. But I'm a big fan of. Let's talk about slaw for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan. Everyone does a whole bunch of green to a little bit of red cabbage.
Oh no!
I like using a 50-50 split. I like using 50% green, 50% red. And then by the time I marinate that in my little dressing, it becomes this beautiful purple color, and it looks great on top of a sandwich with some pork belly on it.
Nice. Man, I'm telling you. So I love taking a whole pork belly or cut it up in 3-pound chunks, sous vide that like 6 to 8 hours. So basically vacuum seal it, really slow cook it, leave it in the bag and let it really chill down in the fridge overnight or for a day or two. And then cut those into basically like 2x2 squares, about 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches tall. And broil those things off in the oven, or you can do 1 inch thick by 2 inches tall by 2 inches long. And pork belly, it's really, if done correctly, it is the single best bite of food I've ever had. I can't.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I do an hors d'oeuvre, Patrick, that is once again, it's an adobo glazed pork belly. And so I'll confit the pork belly in pork fat. I'll confit it. I'll put it in the walk-in and press it.
Okay, so wait.
When I say press it, for all those that don't understand, that means that I drain all the fat off of it, and I stick a pan of beans or something on top of it, something with some weight, some number 10 cans, something with weight. I'll stick that on top of that pork belly, and I'll let it refrigerate overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I get back the next day, I will slice it into 1-inch cubes, and then I will sear it on the flat top on all 4 sides, and then dip it in an adobo glaze, and I'll serve it with some charred pineapple and some charred jalapeno.
Oh, man.
And it's a beautiful hors d'oeuvre.
You are not allowed to call into the show again until I eat before I come on. I'm just telling you. You got to text say, "Did you eat?" Because I'm drooling here. You know, you get the pre-meat sweats. You haven't eaten. You're thinking about eating meat, not because you had too much. You haven't eaten anything, and you're like, you get a little shaky. You know, you're like starting to not queasy, but a little dizzy, a little sweaty. You're like,
hey, so Patrick. Hey,
yes.
Patrick.
Yeah,
we were talking about this before we went on the air.
Uh-huh.
My goldfish is back at my dock.
Oh, hey. Well, we got about 30 seconds. You can stay over into Cheryl. You know what? If you can stay over to Cheryl's Mixed Metaphors thing, what do we drink for Friday, Saturday? We can. We'll come up with a dish to pair with her drinks. But yeah, tell me about the goldfish. You got 30 seconds, and we'll talk. We can continue after.
I got this gigantic. Hey, a lot of you fishermen out there use goldfish to fish for catfish, especially flatheads. I get it. They're a great bait. but when you throw them back in and they don't die, they grow to their environment. So I have like a 30-pound goldfish sitting at my dock right now. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I'm sitting here looking at him.
So, hey, wait, hold on to that thought. Jeff, I want you to, I want to get a picture of that fish so I can identify the species, not today necessarily.
I have a picture of it that I can send you.
Okay, well, hey, hang on. We're going to go through the break. We got a 2-minute break at the bottom of the hour. Cheryl Heisler will be right back with Mixed Metaphors. We're going to talk about what are we drinking Friday, what are we drinking Saturday, and you and I will pair a dish with your drinks, all right? Hang on. Hang tight.
Follow Chef Patrick Mosher on Twitter @Food Biz Pro.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-452-1075. 800-452-1075. That's 800-452-1075.
And welcome back. This is Chef Patrick Mosher here on Spoony Radio. This is the Food Biz Pro Show. It is Friday, the fourth course of the day, better known as dessert. And while we may not be eating dessert, we are going to have some talk about some drinks and some food. Let me unmute the phones here. Chef Jeff, you're back, and Cheryl Heisler, you're on. How are you?
Hey, guys. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Jeff, you there?
Yes.
All right. Hey, Cheryl, for 1 second, Jeff, so explain again one more time about this 30-pound goldfish you got lurking around your dock. I hope your kids don't lose a toe next time they go in the water, but describe this fish. Is this Is this like a koi or which koi is just a large carp that's been specially bred for their coloration? But what is this thing?
Well, I definitely think that it's probably a large koi slash carp. But, you know, goldfish grow to the size of the tank they're in. And so if you put one, because, hey, I'll be honest, I use goldfish for plastic. And if you throw one back in there...
I'm losing you again, Jeff. Shuffle right, shuffle left, man. Shuffle right, shuffle left. You know the drill.
You're not hearing me?
No, you're good. You're good right there. Okay, good. Okay, so you use goldfish as bait, and sometimes we throw them back in the water when they don't, when they're not dead, right? When we rebait, and so again,
yeah, and this one has grown to massive size. Hello?
Yeah, we're here. So I want a picture. We're going to identify this species. I'm sure there's one of these listeners out there that's a biologist.
I have a picture. I'll send it to you right now.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, we're going to go to...
Wait. You're not going to ask me to make a drink to go with a goldfish, are you?
No, but I'm going to have him...
Absolutely, dear. Come on.
Hey, whatever goes with sushi, just whatever goes, it's okay. Doesn't matter.
Yikes.
No. So, Cheryl, I don't think you've met Chef Jeff before. Chef Jeff Wetzel.
Hi, Chef Jeff.
You know, did you are you through the difficult portion of the holiday season, Cheryl?
Oh yes, we're coming up on the last days, so all is good. Everybody's happy.
So
we've managed to eat and drink very well, thank you.
So you're almost back to eating leavened breads and
yes.
Yay! We
grain
can have
whiskey.
Woo, we can have real. Yes.
That was.
Yeah.
Gave up all rye, all bourbon, all scotch.
Well, better you than I. It's like you're a better man or a bigger man than I am.
Can you add one beer to that?
No
one bourbon, one scotch, one beer.
Well, yeah. So they keep,
I think that's a country song.
Hey Jeff. So they keep a kosher kitchen, which, as you know, that is not easy. It's not easy, and you know what?
No, it is not.
Mm-hmm.
But if you grow up with it, it's not so hard either. You just get used to it like anything else. What you miss is when you hear about everybody else talking about what they had and what they're drinking. And I looked at Instagram with a different mindset this week. It's like, oh, that looks good. I got to put it on my list for next week.
That's tough. I mean, it really is difficult. And I really don't think I've ever seen someone so mad as when I used, one of their pans for the wrong product. I thought they were going to beat me. Bludgeon me with a saucepan. We share a similar heritage, right? I'm not. No, I'm not. I wasn't unschooled. I wasn't a chef at I was a very young man, but okay, I didn't mind walking up the stairs in New York City to the 15th floor, but man, I can't use a pot to boil to make hot cocoa with the milk. I'm sorry. But anyway, I digress. Cheryl, we're going back a little bit to something that you had put out in the past that we didn't use that week because you came up with something different.
It got preempted, but we're coming back to the big grin.
Yes, the big grin. So what is the big grin, and what are we drinking Friday?
We are going to have a big grin because I can even have this one this week. It is a martini. Grin comes from gin and rosé. So instead of vermouth, we're using equal parts 209 gin, which is a fabulous gin out of San Francisco, and it happens to be kosher for Passover. So I've done a lot of playing around with that this week. And then instead of the vermouth, I'm making it with equal parts gin and a very dry rosé. So if you can see from the picture, it's a beautiful color. It might look nice with a goldfish, but I'm not going there. And then you garnish it with a little fresh lemon peel and fresh basil. So you get a nice nose off of the basil. You get the dryness from the rosé and the color from the rosé, and you just get a nice clean gin from the 209. It's a lovely drink, and like I said, no restrictions. So it worked very well for our household.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How do you ship that to Arkansas right now?
A really long straw.
There'd be a tunnel underneath, like a pipeline. Well, the dry rosé you guys can get, there's no great gin out in your neck of the woods?
Well, no, I can get all that, but what you were saying just sounded so great it made me want one.
Yeah, she did.
You're a kind man. We'll figure something out. Yeah, it's a nice drink, and you know what? If you want to change up your martini look a little bit, sometimes people try to go like those hot pink colors, like a Cosmo or something.
Mm.
To me, a martini is still a good old-fashioned gin vermouth or vodka vermouth. So this one is just edgy enough that I can say, hey, it's newfangled, but it still preserves the core of what I love about a good martini, which is a good base spirit.
So what's cool about this drink?
Oh, and I love what you're doing there, because see, my wife is a martini drinker, and she loves a good martini. Like, don't mess up something that's already great. So the fact that if it's not broke, don't fix it. The fact that you found a way to do that without mangling up the spirits is fantastic.
Well, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention. So when you pull away, 5/7 of a bartender's tools. We've got to be very resourceful.
Okay,
if you looked at the equivalent of my well bar right now, it would have vodka, gin, and some interesting stuff, which we're going to see when we talk about what we're drinking Saturday.
So you talked about it wouldn't go so well with the goldfish in it, but it would look in. So this says Jeff. I'll send you the picture in a minute. It'll be posted up in just a second here on Spoony Radio's Facebook page. But you know what this would look good with is a nice quenelle of gefilte fish, right? I thought that'd make you laugh.
I've never heard those two words together. I can tell you that.
What, quenelle?
Quenelle of gefilte fish.
Well, gefilte fish. Look, dude, gefilte. That's the shape, right? It's a 3-sided football. That's the whole shape of gefilte fish. You think about it. That's why we chefs hate making it. And Jeff, I if you've never had to make this, God bless you, because taking that white fish.
I hate quenelles. You can bet your ass on that.
Well, taking a
now,
white fish.
Now, quenelles for me were 7-sided.
Well, you make it. Well, no. You're thinking tournée, right? You're thinking so. Tournée is like a cut the vegetables football shaped, but quenelles are when you shape them in the spoon.
Yeah. I got them backwards. Yes, you're correct.
Right against Chef Jeff. Wow, the score is 492-1. Thank you. Thanks for you gave me one. I'll take it, and I'm going to run home with it. So just saying. But yeah, so
quenelles off the spoon. And 3-sided.
Yeah, because and we do that with all sorts of things. Like we shape the whipped cream or chantilly cream, foams, mousses, whatever. But also when we want to poach something that's a protein or like a pureed protein, a mousse like a protein mousse of sort, especially gefilte fish, which is typically pike or some sort of white fish, and then it's actually you take the poaching liquid and you make it it becomes gelatinous from the bones from the stock, and it's served in that. And it's a very, let's just say it lends a very unique aroma to the kitchen for more than a day. We'll just say, especially because typically this is you may make this in a restaurant, but typically unless it's a kosher restaurant, it's very difficult to get away with. Not many people are coming and get it. That you buy it in a jar. There are several companies that make it. But
it's not good in the jar. You got to bite the bullet and make it fresh. You got to open your windows and light candles. I remember one day I went to pick up my daughter from the bus stop, and I said, "Honey," it was right before a holiday. I said, "Honey, guess what I just made?" And she took one sniff. She said, "Gefilte fish."
She probably smelled it coming off the bus. But no, it's not that bad. But Jeff, when you not just cook fish in your house, but now you're boiling a fish that's been you've deboned the fish, you've taken the fillet, you've chopped it up, you've pureed it with these other ingredients, and now you're making quenelles in fish stock that you've made from the bones reserved from the fish. It's aromatic. We'll just say it's aromatic. So
for people.
So my question is where does the fish come from?
Pond, lake, river. Just depends.
Kosher butcher? Kosher fishmonger?
Yeah, really. So
I don't know. I don't see it before it gets to that stage.
I'm going to ask you a question, dear, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I'm not familiar with kosher fish. So as an avid fisherman,
yes.
What makes my fish kosher? Could we talk about that? Like what makes it a kosher fish to be able to use?
It has to have fins and scales, and it can't be a bottom feeder. Those are two of the requirements.
And it also.
And then
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're right.
And different people have different degrees of what they're going to allow. Some people eat certain fish because it had scales at one point in its lifetime, even though they lost it later. We could spend hours on that. So, and everybody keeps kosher a little bit differently. So, Jeff, whatever I say, someone's going to come back and say she was wrong. But the basic thing when you think about a kosher fish, so like a tuna or a salmon would be kosher. A shellfish like a lobster or a shrimp would not. A swordfish would some people disagree about. An eel would not.
Okay, so let's talk about some freshwater fish. Would a crappie? I mean, it has scales.
Mm-hmm. It is.
I don't know a crappie. Does it have another name?
So think of a large sunfish, basically. A little bit of that family of fish, kind of, or maybe Jeff, a perch, maybe would that be a kind of an equivalent, striped perched or something like that?
Cod is good. Whitefish.
It's a panfish.
Yes.
Pan is in the way you cook it.
Well, we call them panfish because if you catch a good one, they're the size of the pan.
Oh. I hadn't heard that. Monkfish, some people would throw into the okay category. There have actually been volumes.
Do you like monkfish? Because I don't really care for monkfish.
I don't eat that one because I'm not that familiar with it. Orange roughy would be okay. Let me think of some other. Smelts are okay. Yellowtail.
Yeah,
would be okay.
So Jeff, round fish and panfish, but not like bottom feeding flatfish typically. Although there are some fish like halibut and other that are excluded from that because they aren't bottom feeders. They live on the bottom, they feed on the bottom, but they're not eating. They're not trash fish, right? What we call they're not cleaner fish.
Right.
And so
halibut, grouper, those are good too.
Mm-hmm. So, but among that,
grouper is my favorite.
Oh, dude, that sandwich
Grouper's
we had.
Great.
We had this blackened grouper sandwich with this we put either coleslaw or mango salsa on there. I'm telling you, that was
nice.
That was one of our best. That was our best selling fish by far, and that was a fun one, Jeff. Now, Jeff, why do you not?
We had.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
One day this week, I made a Creole spiced grouper, and it was delicious, right? So, again, we didn't go hungry. I don't want you to think that we were sitting here just drooling over TV ads all week. We did okay.
Well, and look, keeping kosher isn't about eating bad food. It's about keeping with the laws of that were given to Moses. And it's important as a religious observance, right? Observation and adherence to that is important to a lot of people. And it's really, if you know what you're supposed to do and you practice that, it's not really, it doesn't put you out at all. It just takes planning. And so a lot of people aren't willing to do that, or regardless, look, I think
kosher food is also a growing market segment. I mean, even though people don't keep it for the laws, there's a presumption that the manufacturing is cleaner,
mm-hmm.
that overall the looking at everything and the checking on all kinds of hygiene and stuff and sanitation is going to be better, because to get the kosher certification, there have to be other people walking through and checking the lines and things. So that's kind of interesting that it's growing out of proportion to the number of people who are doing it for religious reasons.
No, absolutely. And so
so I guess I don't understand why. Like, why would crappie not be kosher?
It should be. It's a panfish. So I mean, I'll just in my opinion, Jeff, it is. It has scales.
It has scales.
It's not a bottom feeder. It does feed off algae, but it doesn't eat trash, and it doesn't and it eats other items.
They do not feed off algae.
They eat off. They eat the fish or the smaller animals that feed off of the algae. So they're in fact they're edible. I mean, you could just like sunfish or anything like that. All of those are would be considered kosher. And that's something that doesn't need to be. It probably needs to be blessed, but the taking of that. So there's this whole process, right? I went to this kosher butcher this kosher slaughterhouse, and look, the slaughtering of animals is it's not a pretty business. It isn't. But I'll tell you what, it's a very ritualized process. A kosher slaughterhouse is very, 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 very structured, right? And they basically have this long knife, a scimitar, which, Jeff, you know what that is, a very long curved knife. If you ever seen like Sinbad, Sinbad and
I know what it is. I know what a scimitar is.
I'm talking to listeners there, Sparky. Slow down. Jeff's one of my best friends, by the way, Cheryl, I have to tell you. We give each other crap back and forth. But basically, a scimitar is like, you look at that Sinbad sword without that funky, that point that's extra at the top of the sword. It looks like that. So it's a longer curved knife, 1.5 to 2 feet long. Could be larger or smaller. But anyway, They make sure that there's no pain to the animal. That's one of the things in taking the life of an animal. And part of keeping kosher is that you can't have the giving of life, which is dairy, and the taking of life, which is meat. The taking of life is one thing, giving is another. You can't mix those in the same dish. And so, but to cause no pain, they have a rabbi basically with a very long fingernail. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. I never thought about this, but they drag their fingernail over the sharpened edge of this knife to feel any imperfections, and any slight imperfection of that blade causes a vibration in the fingernail that they feel immediately. And I don't know how many years they have to train for this. Probably decades to know. But if that's the case, they have to get a different blade. They are not allowed to slaughter, and it's to slaughter the animal. And it's done every animal, every single time that blade is checked. And I think it's such a unique and thorough process. You can't help but, if not impressed by it, but at least be in awe a little bit of the thoroughness taken to ensure that these products are they adhere to kosher law. That's all. It's very interesting to me, the whole background.
Well, hey, I'll be honest. If checking the sharpness of the knife is one of the prerequisites of this, then I support that for every kitchen.
Now,
because don't take a dull knife to any meat that I'm cutting.
Or anything at all, right? No vegetable either.
Like, your knife should be sharp.
Yep.
And it should be ready to deal with that animal.
So
nothing should die in vain.
No, and so part of that is, and we'll make this real quick show because I really want to talk more drinks because it's Friday. I need a drink. This one, Abita Amber, it really didn't do it for me, so I need something stronger. But one of the things, Jeff, the reason that they have that law, it's not so much about checking the blade, but that's part of the process that they developed to ensure this, is that when you actually cut the throat, right? Instead of punching a hole or hitting it with a sledgehammer like they used to do in the old days. Now they use an air gun that has this thing that comes out, and they do it on the forehead of the steer. Now, but part of that is you have to go through both arteries and sever the spinal cord. So that, and it has to be one clean cut. If not, it can't be consumed. And so that's part of why they ensure that the blade is so sharp. And seeing this process and how dedicated they are to.
So I have to take the head off.
And I'll tell you what, most of the time that's what happens. And I'm sorry, it sounds very graphic, folks. I don't even disgust anyone, but it's a very serious business. There are a lot of laws.
There's also something about no blood
and no pain, no blood.
You can't consume any blood, right? That's part of what's in the
correct.
kosher kitchen.
And there's
part of the Jewish slaughter, as I understand it, is that it's a way to drain the blood.
Yep, and so it's just. Go ahead, Jeff.
Something while we're on this.
Okay, there.
So when.
Oh, wait!
We need to get a rabbi on this program.
Hold on. Hey! Shuffle left or shuffle right, buddy. All right,
what?
There you are. You're back.
So when I go catch
catfish, yes.
They don't have scales.
Nope.
But if I cut the tail off of them and bleed them.
No,
catfish is off the list, though.
Nope, it's a bottom feeder. It has no scales. You can't eat it if you keep kosher.
Well, I'll be a bottom feeder.
Nope, I'm losing you again, Jeff.
Catfish are they're opportunistic feeders.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they will.
Nope. Hold on. Hey, well, so Jeff, I'll settle this discussion. Hold on, we lost you for a second, Jeff. But here's the thing. I'll settle this question really, and I've heard many debates about this. Ultimately, when you think back to the time when these laws were established, you have to think about sanitation, right? So,
that's a tough argument to make if you're talking to somebody who's a believer. They're gonna
actually
say it isn't about that.
Yeah, no, I get that. But this rabbi, the one that ran this, the rabbi that came in and taught us about kosher food in Denver when I was going to school for the culinary arts, he's the one that brought that up.
Yeah.
And he was a very devout, obviously believer. But if you think about it, what happens with crustaceans, especially shrimp, is the minute you take them out of the water and they expire, they start to produce histamines. And I mean, rapidly. And back then with no ice, no refrigeration, you're talking the Middle East, the middle of the desert with an ocean right there. Okay, so it wouldn't last very long. As a matter of fact, within hours of having no refrigeration and being out of the water, you're talking, that's why so many people are allergic to shrimp and some shellfish, is that alone, right? So that histamine level increases exponentially over the hours, and it starts to get a funky taste. A lot of people don't realize it, but that's where that allergic reaction comes from. It's not always the protein in the fish. So now you think about every other crustacean is kind of the same thing. They don't necessarily turn into this histamine producing bomb, but the flesh starts to deteriorate very quickly. Like lobster, the same thing, crab, any of that. However, flatfish, fish that did not eat or what we call bottom feeder trash eaters, you have a much cleaner flesh. The bloodline goes right down the middle of the fish. They have a different bone structure, and so the flesh tends to be thicker and has less bone through it. In most cases, not all, folks, in most, and so you would have a longer shelf life on that. And then you think about pork. Well, they used to feed pork human fecal matter and food from scraps, and almost all pork had trichinosis. And many, many people died from that. And so that's not the only reason, but it was common sense that a lot of these food sources shouldn't have been consumed, especially in that era. We're talking, who really knows when that was, but we're talking several thousand years back. And it's a very valid argument, even if it's not religiously correct. It would have been good food policy, regardless of the church or the time. It was smart.
Well,
I lost you again, buddy.
That is like a controversy.
Yeah.
As a teach me something.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Well, so I'm losing you again, Jeff. So, just step up.
I'm not asking. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not asking to make controversy. I'm asking to teach me something.
Yeah, I know. So that's
hey, I've got a wonderful woman on the line here that knows about her kosher cooking situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to learn.
They're great questions, and I got to tell you, even within the Jewish world, you're going to have people arguing that their level of kosher is more than somebody else's level of kosher. There's different levels of kosher meat. One guy could hang out a shingle and say he's a kosher butcher. The next guy could say I'm only glot kosher, which is another level of. It's confusing. So
you got parve and all these. Yeah,
internally.
Mm-hmm.
Your questions are great. Jeff.
So can I ask you a question, ma'am?
Jeff, hold on.
Sure.
Jeff, wait, we got 1 minute to spend on this topic because we have another drink and we got 4 minutes left in the segment.
As a chef, if I were going to serve a kosher meal, how do I know that I'm safe serving it?
It's a great question, and we'll talk about it offline. I'll be happy to tell you what I know, but for some people, if it's even made in a non-kosher kitchen, they still wouldn't feel comfortable eating it, or being served on plates that had held other things before. So depending on the level of people, level of observance, you're going to get a whole range of different answers to that question, which makes it tough. I have people who are friends who are much more observant than I am. They'll only eat kosher food that's been pre-wrapped, even in my home, and I keep a kosher home. And I've got friends who are much more liberal who think I'm nuts for what I do, because they don't think just all we're talking. They say there's no need for it anymore. So it's a tricky business.
So Cheryl, on that,
which is why we need to drink something Saturday.
Yeah. So I
it's all in perspective.
This is kind of a funny question, but
let's talk about that.
Wait, hey man, come on, you ask yours. Let me ask mine real quick. And it's my show. Hey, don't make me mute you. I love you, brother. Real quick, Cheryl, your open boxes of leavened products, do you throw them out, or you do put them in a separate closet outside of the dining area?
I throw out what's open for the most part. Anything that's left, there's a legal loophole, a legal fiction that you sell.
Lock it in a cabinet.
A non-Jew. Right. And you put it away and you don't look at it all week.
Exactly. Okay, so real quick, we got 2.5 minutes left. So, Cheryl, what are we drinking? By the way, fascinating conversation. I could really talk about this for hours. We should do a whole show on it. But what are we drinking Saturday? Because I need something as soon as I get off the air.
Okay, well then, how about a coffee date for the weekend?
Woohoo!
And that's not me being presumptuous. If you want to have a coffee date with somebody else.
I don't think your husband would appreciate it.
Equal parts of coffee liqueur.
Nope.
For Passover, but any coffee liqueur would work. And then date vodka. And the date vodka that I found for Passover, it's a hoot. It's actually called Moses Date Vodka, but it's a product imported from Finland. Don't ask me why the Finnish are drinking date vodka with Moses' name and likeness on the bottle, but it's a terrific product. And if you mix it with equal parts, it's just this viscous. It could be an eye-opener in the morning. It could be a nightcap at the end of the day. You have it with a cup of espresso or pour it into your coffee. Either way, it's a delightful way to spend a little downtime with your family or a significant other. So that's what I'm drinking tomorrow.
That sounds pretty darn good. Jeff, what do you think? Oh, Jeff, did I lose you? Nah.
Yeah, he dropped off.
He wants to talk more about the kosher stuff.
No. So look, Jeff, he has fascinating questions. I love talking food with him, because I specialize in areas different than what he specializes in. It's so much fun. He's such an awesome guy. I really miss him. But all right, so that's what we're having on Friday and Saturday. That really sounds good. Date vodka. That sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to try that. So, hey, Cheryl.
If you have trouble finding it, I think you could probably macerate your own. Put some dates in a plain vodka bottle, and I'd let them sit for 2 to 4 weeks, and I bet they would leach some nice flavor in there. And it gives it also a real pretty kind of light chocolatey color.
Awesome stuff. Cheryl, you have a great weekend. She said macerate, folks. That means to soak in its own juices. That's all that means. Cheryl, I'm glad. I hope you had a great Passover.
Okay.
Best to you and your family.
To the grain.
Yes.
Thanks so much. We'll be drinking real stuff again next week.
Thank you very much. Hey, folks, Chef Patrick Mosher here, the Food Biz Pro. Course 4 is done. We've consumed everything I have to give. Dessert's done. Go home. Remember, be kind to yourself. You are what you eat. Ciao for now.